Steam Next Fest has come and gone. I thought it'd be a fun thing to make a video about if I just like download a few demos and play them and kind of just give my thoughts. I think it'd be a fun, video idea. So I have played a few games from the Steam Next Fest. Obviously, I can't play every single demo that there is. There's too many. I tried to stick to trying out games that it looks like I would be into or that are part of genres that I like, because I don't like shitting on games because they're not part of a genre that I normally play. But I do have quite a few games that I downloaded to try out. There's some really good shit here. There's some not so good stuff. Without any more prelude, let's get into it. Alright, first up, we're going to talk about probably the weirdest game that I played, and that is Hell Is Us. Now, you're going to hear me say the word weird when talking about this game a lot, because this game is very strange. Still not quite sure what to make of it after playing it for a while, but what the game is, it's a third-person hack-and-slash investigations game, I guess. This game definitely does have some production value to it. It's coming out for $50, so I would definitely hope that it does. The demo opens in this, very strange in the sense of the story and what it is. It starts off with this dude that looks like John Goodman got crossed with that Bullfrog Mayer character from American Dad, talking to this fucking Todd Howard looking motherfucker. They go back to some flashback. He's in the wood, and it's crazy, man. This game is crazy. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense what's going on. They don't really explain a whole lot. It's just like, oh, you're in the forest, in the woods, as a soldier, and then you go, and there's a temple, and eventually you open the temple. This fucking sword-wielding samurai chick with like a fucking samurai mask comes in. She gets fucking destroyed by this monster thing. And she's just gone. She's like, she comes in out of nowhere, dies. The main character takes like her weapon and her clothes for some reason, or her poncho, and then that's it. And she's never to be heard or seen from again. And then you go into this stuff. Dude, this game's fucking weird. I do like the atmosphere that it sets when you're wandering around. A lot of that is the soundtrack. It's this really weird, like ominous kind of atmosphere that kind of made me on edge. And it definitely gives it its own unique vibe. It's a weird vibe playing this game, especially with like all the shit that's happening very quickly, and it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, and they don't really explain a whole lot. At first, I thought I was gonna hate this game because they start out saying like, "Oh man, you got to pay attention to where to go and be super vigilant about where to go and pay attention to your surroundings to figure it out because there's no map, shit like that." I was like, "Oh no, it's gonna be a where the fuck do I go kind of game." But surprisingly, didn't really have a hard time figuring out where to go. Luckily, because they do give you a compass, so you can use the compass, because usually they're like, oh, go to the west, so there's something to the north, and you can use the compass and kind of, as long as you're not stupid and you follow the instructions people give you, you won't get lost. So not that the area is really that big to get lost in anyway. It's a weird game. I don't really know what to make of it even after playing it. It was fun, I guess. Like I said, the puzzles were kind of juvenile, but again, I don't really like puzzles anyway, so it's probably a good thing from my perspective. Combat is just kind of basic. It's really the atmospheres of this game is what kind of makes it stand out. It really is weird in a unique kind of way. So there's definitely going to be an audience for this. I imagine there are people that would love going around and exploring and figuring out about this world and doing the combat. I don't know if $50 is a lot of money, and it's not the 80 that games demand now, but I guess it depends on how long this game is. It's not really the kind of game I would want to typically play anyway, but yeah, I can still appreciate when a game is doing things that are pretty good. Like I said, the visuals are decent, the atmosphere is great, the gameplay's kind of fine. Definitely a unique game. Cult Simulator. Now, If I had a dime for every Cult Simulator card game that I played, I would have 2 dimes, which isn't a lot, but it is still strange that it happened twice. So, Cult Simulator is a game where I'm sure, as you could imagine, you run your own cult, and it's a card game, as I just mentioned, and it is the second Cult Simulator card game I have, which is like I said, it is strange. I don't know why cults attract this kind of card game style of game, but this game has a lot of potential, and I will say that I feel like this game is in like really, really like early alpha states, even more so than a lot of the other games that we're gonna go over, because this is the only game on the entire list where there's no tutorial. They don't tell you anything of what's going on. And funny enough, this game is probably the game out of all of the games I played that needed a tutorial the most, because I couldn't figure out for the most part what the fuck I was doing. Now I did make some inflections. I tried to figure it out. I lasted a while, but they don't tell you anything. There's no tutorial. Like, you have to play cards on states, which I'm sure you're seeing on screen, but they don't tell you. Like, they'll have, each state has a stat, but they don't tell you what that stat means. I assume it means that, like, cards that you play that are part of that category would be better if it's green and would be worse if it's red, so you try to play cards that match the green categories, but then there's some states that don't have any green categories, so, like, I guess you're just supposed to kind of grin and take those. The different stats increase. They don't make it clear exactly how money works. I kept running out of money constantly because I don't know if that's a balance thing where like everything costs too much, or I'm just playing the game badly. Again, because there's no tutorials. They really just throw you out into the middle of the ocean with no guidance whatsoever. Like a bar fills, and I don't know what the bar does, like what it means if that bar is filled all the way. Like, I don't know. That's why I said when I feel like this game is in like early stages, if they don't have this shit set up, at least a tutorial to explain what the fuck is happening. No, I don't think the game is completely bad, because I think there's a decent game here. There's at least the potential of a very fun game. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of card games, but I like strategy games. I think there is some stuff you could do. I think there's definitely something fun about growing your cult to encompass the entire country, and, you know, being strategic about what cards you place in what state and building your shit up. Like, that's cool. I like the idea and the concept, and it seems like it'd be fun, but you gotta flesh it out. You gotta give a tutorial. You gotta fix the money problem. Again, I don't know if that's just because I was playing the game badly or what, but it seems like I couldn't last for longer than a few turns in this game without running out of money. Look, I think the game has potential. I don't know when it's supposed to release. I don't think there's a release date on it. If they get a tutorial in here, they fix the balancing a little bit, they could have a fun game here. But where it is right now, it's kind of a confusing mess, and I don't know what I'm doing when I try to play it. My advice to the developers of this game is add a fucking tutorial. That's the number. You gotta fucking explain to people what the fuck is going on and what they're doing, because it's not like it's based on a board game or something that people would easily understand. Like, you gotta let people know. And again, I would say again, potentially the balance is off. The fact that I can't make it longer than like 4 days without running out of money. Cult Leader Simulator, and not to be confused with Cult Simulator, which is another card cult game, has potential. I could definitely see where the fun's at once you kind of flesh it out a little bit and you give people a clue. You know, you add enough cards and you can make this game fun to play. I can definitely see something at its core that's fun, but it definitely needs some work. And hopefully it gets some work. Hopefully they make it out and they make it better into a full-fledged game. So alright, next we're going to be talking about Dead as Disco. Now, probably this is definitely my favorite game that I played in the entire fest. This fucking game is awesome, dude. I'm just going to get right to it. This game is fucking sick. The people that are making this game are definitely fucking cooking some hot shit here. You know, this is why another reason why I wanted to do these videos, because I would have had no interest in this game if I wouldn't have had to play the demo. But this demo is probably one of the funnest demos I've ever played. I swear to you, I'm not kidding. If this demo is still up and you're watching this video, definitely fucking go play this demo, because this demo's awesome. What this game is, beat 'em up rhythm game, I guess, but it's not a rhythm game like in the typical sense. You don't have to like match your fist, your moves up to the beat. It kind of just does it automatically. So you kind of have to react and stuff to the beat still and kind of plan around it because you won't do anything until the next beat hits. By God, dude, this game feels so fucking good to play, dude. It's so fucking satisfying. The way that they do the sound effects, just the way that it looks, like how colorful it is, the way that the sound effects like blend in with the music that's playing, dude, it's so goddamn good. It feels so good to play, and it's one of those things that you really do have to play it for yourself, because game feel and how a game feels is one of the hardest things to actually get across and explain properly to people, because it's hard to understand how a game feels without playing it yourself. But this game really did nail how good it feels to beat up people, how good it looks, how well the sound of beating up people matches up to the music, which is fantastic song selections, by the way. And hopefully they keep it as varied as it was in the demo. In the demo, they started out with like this rap song, like this modern day hip hop rap, and then in the next stage they went back to 80s. And they had like an 80s pop song. Not necessarily my favorite 80s pop song, but it did fit the game incredibly well, and it's just a fun fucking game. And I'll just put it this way, dude. When I was playing the demo, I let out an audible "fuck yeah" about twice, and I haven't done that since playing Doom Eternal when it came out. So that is one hell of a high praise, considering Doom Eternal is one of my favorite games of all time, bar none. Yeah, this game is just fucking awesome, dude. Definitely my favorite game of the entire fest. Definitely something I'm looking forward to. I don't think it has a release date yet. By God, do not rush it, because this game, if the entire game is as good as this demo was, this is like a straight up fucking masterpiece game in the making. Again, I might be overrating it a bit, but dude, that demo really was that good. So yeah, definitely my favorite game of the fest. I know it's been getting a lot of good press. I can definitely understand why after playing it. But yeah, if you haven't played this and it's still up, go play it. It's awesome. If you like beat 'em ups, if you like music, you'll like this game. Because I don't even typically like beat 'em ups, really. But I fucking love this game. So the only concern that I have, the song selection, because that's not really something that you can pick. Again, I like the songs they picked for this demo. You really gotta have good music when it comes to something like this, and a lot of that is subjective, admittedly, but you do gotta have good music, or at least music that fits, that would work well in this format, in the beat 'em up style. That's fun to beat people up to, I'll just put it that way. Another thing that kind of worries me is I don't know how long this game is gonna be, and how long, because that's the only thing that could ruin it, is if it's like only 4 levels, and they try to charge like $40 for it or something. Like, I like the levels, dude, but it's not that good. Come on now. That's the only way they could potentially ruin it, is if they kind of skimp out. They're like, alright, here's 4 levels with 4 different songs, 2 of which suck, again, because at least the 2 in the demo were good. Both songs were incredibly cheesy, but again, I think it fits the game perfectly, so I'm not going to complain. And they're decent songs. They're at least fun to listen to it. But yeah, as long as they have good song selection, they make the game long enough to where I don't feel ripped off after paying whatever they charge for it. This game, it looks to be absolutely awesome. So definitely check it out if you haven't yet. Yeah, definitely play it. Alright, next up we have Dice Gambit. This is a top-down tactics RPG, I guess you'd call it. Not a genre I'm typically into, but I've dipped my toes in here and there. I do like RPGs a lot. The tactics RPGs I haven't played much of. Typically, I find them to be kind of shallow, either in one aspect or the other. They're typically shallow in the RPG aspect, or they're shallow in the tactics aspect. So this game definitely does appear to be mostly tactics based. You're not gonna find a deep RPG from this, which again, not everyone is gonna be looking for. It is a reason why I tend to bounce off these games, and it was still kind of true here. There is a story, but the story is very much in the background. It's an excuse for you to fight enemies, and usually for these kinds of games, I need a bit more than that. Like, there is a story, but it's not really played seriously. It's a very quirky, kind of played for laughs type story. It's not taking itself seriously, which is fine. You know, I'm not going to complain about it because I wish it was an in-depth story, complex and stuff, even though that's what I would prefer. So it's clear that it's aiming for people who, though I will say the character customization is pretty good and it's pretty extensive. That's cool. I like that you can customize all your dudes and customize how they look, all their abilities you can pick when they level up and stuff, but and it gives you a lot of stuff to play with. So, you know, I do like a good character creator, even if it doesn't mean a whole lot. When it's in a game, I have to bring it up because I do love character creators. As far as the tactics go, now I couldn't, obviously you can only go so far into the game from a demo. This was probably the longest demo out of all the ones that I played, which is smart of them to do that because the game starts off incredibly simple and it starts to get more complex as you get more skills and you get more party members. You start out with one person and you get 2 and 3, so on and so forth. And you can chain abilities together, like certain abilities can proc off of other ones, and you can make some really cool I can definitely see where some strategy nerds would get into this. I could definitely get into it a little bit. You know, I could actually even see myself playing this game, because I did have fun when I was playing it, and it was like, alright, I can do this, then this person can do this, that'll take these dudes out, and there's some strategy, and I do like strategies. It's a unique take on the tactics strategy genre because there's dice and you have to like roll dice to get certain cards that do certain things. And it's definitely a different take on it, and it definitely makes the game stand out a little bit amongst the sea of other games that are like this. I imagine there's probably a shit ton of cards and a shit ton of different abilities and things. It really is going to be dependent on the depth, on how much people are going to get into this. How many cards are there? There's definitely a lot of levels. There's definitely a lot of stuff. It seemed like there was a lot from what I've seen. Again, I can't go super far into the game because it's a fucking demo, but it seemed like there's a decent amount of cards, there's decent character customization. Enemy variety was a little bit lacking in what I played. There was only like 3 different kinds of enemies, but again, I imagine in the full game there will be more. At least I would certainly hope so, because the 3 enemy types they had didn't really behave all that differently from one another. So look, there's a good base for a game here. I kind of prefer the story to be a bit more serious and like a bit more consequential. I'm not asking for a deep Mass Effect type RPG, but like, I don't know, it's just the tone of it kind of throws me off. I'm not the biggest fan of. For the tone that it's setting and what it's going for, I think it does good. I did have a lot of fun playing. I like the fucking air system. I like the way that you can kind of like build your family out and stuff. That's definitely unique. And you can definitely use it to try to like min-max to get the exact character you want that has the exact stats and stuff. There's depth to be had here for sure, and definitely things that make it stand out between the air system and the dice system and all that stuff. So look, if you like tactics games, definitely give it a shot. I think it's good for what it is. It's one of the funner tactics games that I've played, though granted I haven't played a lot. I just wish the story was different and stuff. But again, I'm not going to complain about something just because it doesn't suit my taste. I think for what it's trying to do, it's fine. Definitely, if you like what you've seen on screen or anything of what I've said, check it out. There's a demo. I think it's releasing next month. You know, definitely something to keep an eye on if you're a tactics strategy fan. Alright, next up we have Holston. Holston is a top-down survival horror game. I do like survival horror games to an extent. I don't like the old ones for various reasons, but very similar reasons to why I didn't really like this all that much. Look, I think let's get the positives out of the way first, because there is definitely some positives. I mean, I downloaded the game because of the way it looks, so we'll start there. I think the aesthetics and like the way that this game sets up atmosphere is pretty good for some way. I like the way that everything looks. It's grungy and run down, but the fact that it's top down definitely makes it unique. The whole gimmick here is that you can occasionally you can rotate the world for one to like see different things and pathways, and 2, you can, when you go into first person to shoot zombies, you go into first person. You actually like target weak points and stuff. It's definitely a different way of doing like the typical tank controls, and it's unique because I haven't seen anything like this done before, where you can like go into first person and shoot whatever and then go back into third person. That's cool. I fucking like that a lot. With that being said, I think that's pretty much all I liked was the concept and some of the aesthetics and the way that it looks. This game, man, I wanted to like this game more than I did. So we'll start off, I guess, with kind of the weird dialogue, and this might just be for the demo. I'm imagining it is, but the dialogue is like really is just exposition dumps. There's not really a whole lot, and it keeps going on and on. Like the demo starts, you go into this fucking bathroom, and you're seeing it on screen now. You find this lady, and she pretty much just tells you everything instantly of what's going on, what happened with the town, who's behind it. She doesn't tell you everything, but she tells you like way more to where there's not really any mystery as to what's going on or how this got this way. And it's like, you don't think you could maybe like spread that out a little bit? You know, maybe make it a little bit of a mystery where you have the player trying to figure it out. Maybe they just did this for the demo again. I certainly hope so. But the pacing, it really does feel breakneck. It's like, oh, by the way, here's this mountain of exposition for you. Then from there, it basically turned into one of the things that I hate the most in games, which is a where the fuck do I go kind of game. And I hate that. The thing, I spent, I think, 40 minutes in this demo. I think 30 minutes of that was just wandering around aimlessly trying to figure out where the fuck I'm supposed to go, what the game wants me to do. It's one of those games where it tells you what to do, but it doesn't tell you how to do it. So, like, you'll find a guy behind a wall, and it's like, oh, break down this wall to get to him. But it doesn't tell you how to do that. So you have to look in the environment and find an object, which I never was able to do. I couldn't figure it out. And the game is just full of shit like that. It's like, oh, get over to this guy, but you have to fucking find this thing in the environment that you have to move out of the way and then climb up over these other shit, and it's hard to see initially that you can't even climb over them. And then you have to keep rotating the map to find the smallest pathway to get to where you're supposed to go. And it's just, it's annoying, man. It's annoying. When you're actually fighting things and you're, like, exploring, I'm sure it's fun. And especially because, like, it doesn't have the desolate feel that I like in a lot of survival horrors, where there's not a lot of people around. Like, there's a lot of people around with questionable sanity, admittedly, but, like, I just don't like the atmosphere it sets as opposed to having it just be completely desolate or only having, like, a couple people around. Like, having people around that you can at least somewhat converse with, even though they're not the most sane, kind of does dampen the horror atmosphere a little bit. Especially when it seems like that's what most of the game is. It's just walking around, talking to these people, trying to figure out where the fuck you're supposed to go, what the fuck you're supposed to be doing. It's just not good, man. I wish I had fun with this. You know, it's definitely got its merits. I'm not gonna sit here and say that it's bad because it's not the kind of game that I like, despite what it looked like at the surface. I thought it was gonna be more maybe 40 to 50% shooting zombies and exploring, or maybe like 70 to 80%, you know, shooting zombies and exploring, maybe 20% figuring out puzzles and talking to people. But instead, it's the opposite. It's 70 to 75% figuring out fucking dumbass puzzles and talking to people and trying to figure out where to go. 10% shooting, which, funny enough, is why I couldn't get into fucking survival horror games back in the day on the PS1, because that's what most of them were. And even when there was tension in combat, it came from the controls being so shit that you could barely move, not because what was coming at you was actually scary. I'm sure it has an audience. There's a lot of people that like these kinds of games where you just wander around and try to figure things out, because I know that there is something people get, oh, I figured it out. This is what you're supposed to do. Like, I get it. I've played puzzle games that I've liked before. I understand the idea and the concept, and I understand what people can get out of games like this. Not to say that this is a puzzle game. Like most puzzle games and most survival horror games that are older, I spent most of it trying to figure out what the fuck I'm supposed to do or where the fuck I'm supposed to go. So I just couldn't get into this, man, even though I do like the idea and the concept. And it is unique being able to go into first person and with this pixel art style and stuff. It is unique, but that just wasn't enough to save it for me, unfortunately. But hey, look, if it looks like something you like and, you know, you like figuring out where to go and what to do and all that shit, then you probably like this game. So that's Holston.
Rebuild sequence complete.
Next up, we got Metal Eden, an arcadey first-person shooter set in a far distant future. Some robot lady, and you're going through and shooting robots. That's about it. There's not much to this game. It's very simple. What you see is pretty much what you get. Look, I'm a sucker for first-person shooters. If it's fun to play, I'm always going to get into it no matter what. Cliche as this game is, you know, it's got the cliche shit. It's got wall running, and I will say it seems like it's a bit more difficult than a lot of first-person shooters that are like this, that are kind of arcadey, where you can't aim down the sights. Even though it is pretty simple as far as gameplay goes, there is an upgrade system. You can upgrade your guns, you can upgrade your character to do different shit, to gradually make the game more complex as the game goes on. Decent game. The music's good. The guns are really fun to shoot. The shotgun in this fucking game fucks hard, dude. one of the better shotguns that I've played in a really long time. It sounds like a fucking cannon going off every time you fire it, too. It's just awesome. You gotta love a good shotgun. Yeah, overall, even though the game is simple, I had fun while playing it. Look, like I said, I'm a sucker for first-person shooters. The guns feel fun to shoot. It feels good to gimp enemies. The story is kind of strange, but it's not bad. It's kind of the thing where they don't really give you the full context of what's happening, and you kind of got to start to piece things together on your own. All you know is there's this big fucking city, and something got corrupted, and things have gone to shit, and you're going in to save prisoners. That's it. They don't really tell you how it got corrupted, or what's corrupting it, or why it's causing all these robots to come after you, or what even you are. You're some kind of weird super soldier that dies and comes back. It's not a roguelike. They make it a point to show that, like, you're expendable, and they just keep sending more, recreating you and sending you in. I guess that's supposed to be like a lore-friendly way to explain respawning, I imagine. And I do like a story that you kind of got to piece together, and it's not uninteresting. I do think, you know, there's enough there in the first level or two that they give you. Again, you can't go too far into these demos, but they do try to vary it up a little bit. Like, there's core ripping. You can, like, rip the enemies' cores out, throw them at other ones. You can use it to power up, to, like, level up your melee and stuff. Like, there is a little bit of depth to it. I unlocked the ability later on. You can, like, slow time. So, like, they do add stuff as the game goes on. So it's not quite as bare bones as you might think initially. It definitely is a game that's harder, I think, than most of these games that I've played. In the difficulty select, they were cheeky about it and like, oh, there's normal, hard, and the hardest. There's not an easy mode. Fair enough. Again, it wasn't the hardest game I played. I think I only died a few times in the demo. Again, I'm not a master at these games, but I like to think that I'm pretty decent at them. But it's not prohibitively difficult, and it's still, you know, fulfills that power fantasy obligation that games like this have, where you start taking dudes out, you rip a core out, throw at another dude, fucking shotgun another dude to the face, and then you fucking super melee punch another dude. Like, it does give that power fantasy of feeling like a complete badass, which is essential for these kinds of games, and I think the most important aspect, honestly. Now, there's not all positives. I definitely had a few complaints in this game. The biggest one, I saw people on Steam saying this, is the performance. Now, look, my computer is definitely not cutting-edge tech. I'm not going to sit here and act like I have a fucking 5080 in this rig. My rig is definitely aging. That being said, I built this rig in 2020, and it was top of the line when I built it, and there wasn't really a whole lot happening in this game that would warrant the frame dips that I was seeing. I'm pretty lenient, tolerant when it comes to shit like that, because I'm just used to playing with a computer that runs like shit and is outdated, because I'm too cheap and poor to afford an actual upgrade, because it costs as much as a fucking down payment for a house to actually upgrade your system nowadays. Even then, I was registering some, and it didn't get unplayable until there was one. It got to one section that actually was unplayable, where it's like I was playing a PowerPoint, and it was a struggle to get through that section. Not because it was hard, because I was getting swarmed with enemies or whatever, because I couldn't fucking aim and play because I was playing a PowerPoint. And I hate being super, like, negative about shit like that, too, in games like this, because it's like, it's in early access. They definitely have time to polish this off and fix those issues before the game comes out. I mean, it is a demo, but again, at the same time, if it's a demo and it's a vertical slice, you figure they'd have time to at least polish it to give a good impression. I mean, it's a demo. You're trying to get people to buy the full game, so to have frame rate dips and stuff, it's not really a good look. Another thing I didn't like, there's this edgelord dude that's, like, constantly in your ear just talking the most fucking cringy, edgy bullshit. That just sounds like a dude that just listened to his first Linkin Park album in 2008, and he's trying to fucking wax philosophical to you, and it's really cringe, dude.
They had one job. They could have built anything. A fresh start for humanity. You know, a house, a garden, and a dog. Came corporate strategy. Agile development and resource planning. What did we end up with? The biggest block of flats in the universe.
It's really cringe. It's annoying. Like, this dude could not take his head out of his own ass. It's just annoying. The dude's annoying, and he's in your ear the whole fucking game. So I had to bring it up. But yeah, outside of those 2 games, this looks like a fun game. If they fix the performance issues, because that's definitely something they need to fix. Again, I'm more tolerant of other people, and I have a bad rig anyway, kind of, so can't really comment on all that much about performance issues, I feel like, when it comes to games. Again, there was nothing happening on screen that really warranted it. But they fixed that shit. They fixed the edgelord that's constantly fucking talking stupid bullshit in your ear. And this could be a lot of fun. Like, this is another one that I might buy when it comes out. This is definitely something that wasn't on my radar before I started playing these demos. So this is why I wanted to play these, because I wanted to find games that I was interested in, because there's not a whole lot coming up the rest of this year even that I'm really interested in playing. Definitely, if you like first-person shooters, especially the arcadey ones, you know, check it out. You know, you might be impressed by it. You might actually have fun with it like I did. So next up, we have Neon Abyss 2. This is a 2D side-scrolling bullet hell-ish roguelite. I'm not the biggest fan of roguelikes typically, but free demo. I like the aesthetic. It looks cool. And I've actually have the original Neon Abyss in my library. I can't remember when I bought it, but I did buy it apparently at some point and never played it. And I thought, you know what? Why not? You know, and if I like this game, I can go back and play the original and, you know, see if that's any good. So, did I like this game? Yeah, I did like what I played. Here's the thing. With roguelikes, it's one of those things where I almost always start off absolutely loving these games and think, oh, they're fun. It's really fun. And then by like hour 6, I'm like, alright, this is just the same shit over and over again. Like, the problem with these games a lot is they don't give enough variety in weapons and power-ups and shit like that, and in floor variety even, and enemy variety, to keep things interesting and to keep me from feeling like I'm just doing the same shit over and over and over again. And that's why I haven't historically been the biggest fan of roguelikes, because typically they don't have enough weapons and power-ups to actually feel that way. So what ends up inevitably happening is I'll play the roguelike, I'll have a decent time for about 12 hours, and then I get bored with it because they're not giving you enough power-ups at a decent pace. You're not unlocking enough to keep it interesting. They don't have enough variety in the power-ups and enemies, and it's just bad. So it's hard for me to judge a game like this, given that it's a demo. There's only a few bosses you can fight. There's only a select amount of power-ups and so on and so forth. It's hard for me to judge it until I've gotten like a few hours in and I actually know the scope of how the variety is and all that shit. That being said, I did enjoy what I played, but I usually do with roguelikes. That's what happened with Enter the Gungeon when I played that back in the day. It's like, yeah, it was fun for about 14 hours, and then you realize it's the same shit over and over, and there's not enough new guns and power-ups to keep each run interesting, and you get bored of it. We'll see if this game runs into that. It's hard to tell just from a demo if that's going to be an issue, because it's just a demo, so you don't get the full variety of exactly what the full game will entail. But for being a roguelike, I mean, it does do what roguelites are supposed to do, where you have different items that synergize with other things to where you can make completely broken, overpowered builds, which I was able to do pretty much my first run. I had like these eggs that follow you. You can pick up eggs. Then I had like a gun that it was I can't remember what the power up was, but I think it was I had ended up getting a bunch of power ups where it's like if you kill an enemy, it has a chance to drop an egg. If you take damage, it makes eggs hatch faster. They hatch into these little animal things that fight for you. And I got like a bunch of power ups where I just had a whole army of eggs following me at one point, and I had a whole army of creatures to do my bidding. And on top of that, the weapon I was using was also scaled based on how many eggs you had. So it was just completely busted. And I do like games. I think that's important for games like this. That's one of the reasons why I actually like Binding of Isaac, and that's like the only roguelike game that I actually like still enjoy playing. It lets you be just so completely busted if you get the right synergies and the right items, and that's what makes it fun. So it's doing the right things. A lot of the things scale. It'll scale based on like how many keys you have, how many bombs you have. So like you can have synergies where it's like, oh, it drops a bunch of keys, and then you have this weapon that scales off of keys that makes it you do more damage. So there's a bunch of cool stuff like that you would want in a game like this, for sure. And I did have a lot of fun playing. The bosses are pretty fun. The enemy variety is decent for a demo. I think it might be a bit too easy, but again, I mean, I beat it the first try. It might be a bit easy, but again, I did have a completely broken, busted build, so that might have something to do with it as well. Maybe I just got lucky with my item pickups. Yeah, overall, I had a decent amount of time with it. Again, I'm concerned on whether it can hold that and how long it can hold that for. It's all dependent on, you know, power-up variety and enemy variety and things like that. I know I saw on Steam people saying that it doesn't really need to be a sequel and there's not that much different from the first game, but maybe I'll go back and, you know, play the first game, because I did have a decent amount of time with this to actually incentivize me to go back and try that out. But so Neon Abyss 2, it's a fun little roguelike. I don't know what it's launching for. I imagine 20, 25 bucks. I think that's what the first one did. If you like these games, you probably already know about this game. I know the roguelite scene has like a very dedicated community. The pixel art's really good too. That's another thing. So look, if you like what you see on screen, if this sounds good, if you like roguelites, you'll definitely give it a try. But like I said, if you like roguelites, you'll probably already know about this game. But Neon Abyss 2, fun little roguelite game. Alright, next up is Ninja Gaiden Ragebound. This is a 2D action platformer hack and slash type game, harkening back to some of the really old games that on the Nintendo, the old Ninja Gaiden games on there, which were way before my time. However, I will say I did watch Angry Video Game Nerd growing up, and that person single-handedly caused me to have an interest in retro games enough to get an emulator when I was growing up and play some of these games. So I have actually, believe it or not, played through, I haven't played through them, but I have played the original games on the Nintendo. Put it out there so I know the kind of game this is trying to be, or trying to harken back to. And this game, it really is a more complex, more accessible version of those games, because I don't think it's as hard as those games are. But it still gets the essence of why those games were fun, in the sense that it knows that the funnest parts of those games were getting into the flow state, where you could just run through a level without stopping, just killing every enemy in your way, and just speed blitz through the level like a fucking true ninja would. Like, that shit was fun. And they captured that really well in this game. The gameplay seems simple at first, but it's one of those things where it's easy to learn and hard to master. They start to introduce more stuff as the game goes on. You know, it starts out where all you could really do is hack and slash, you jump and you hit things. But then later on they have like special items that you can use, and you have to use certain special items on certain enemies to get special abilities to kill other ones faster. And there's a bit more under the surface than it appears at first, but they do gradually introduce that stuff throughout the game and through some of the levels that they put into the demo. This game is just a fun game, man. It looks good. It harkens back to like the old games on the NES or even the Super Nintendo games that would be on that, but it looks way better than, even though it's like the same kind of pixel art, it looks like what those games would look like if they had no hardware limitations. So it looks good, it sounds amazing. The music in this is fucking fantastic. Which, again, that was another staple of the old games. A lot of them had great music. This definitely does fit that bill. There's definitely awesome music. It's the levels and the themes, too, of the game. You know, they got, like, the ninja stuff. It's just good music. And definitely just a fun throwback. I know these games aren't for everybody, you know, even though I think it's more accessible than those games were. I know it's not the most popular genre that exists anymore, the 2D side-scrolling action platformer, but When you get into a flow state and you're just blitzing through levels and just slaughtering enemies, it feels good. And it's fun to play, and at the end of the day, that's really all a game like this needs to be. Look, definitely, if you like side-scroller action, if you just like games that make you feel like a badass and that they're easy to learn and fun to master, and you like games like this, definitely give it a shot. It impressed me more than I thought it was. I didn't expect a whole lot from this game. I just expected a whole lot of nostalgia baiting and, you know, generic stuff. But this game, you know, it takes the formula and it does fun stuff with it, and it's just a fun game to play. It's good music, good graphics. Everything that needs to be good in a game like this is. So, is good from fantastic. So, definitely a standout in my mind in the games that I played. And definitely worth checking out if you're into the whole 2D side-scrolling action platformer style game. There's definitely a lot to like here. That'll conclude with the games I tried. I know there's a bunch more games, but so I wanted to put this video out in a timely manner. And like I said, a lot of the games didn't really interest me, and I tried to keep it limited to the games that actually looked interesting. I'm glad that I went through and played some of these because there was a few surprises and a few games in particular that I'm actually like legitimately looking forward to now. Particularly Dead is Disco and Metal Eden and Ninja Gaiden Ragebound. Those are probably my top 3 of the whole video if you had to make me choose. Neon Abyss 2 would probably be in 4th place because I like that game a lot too. But I'm glad that Steam does these because it definitely does give people a chance to try these games out. Especially with these indie games, so you can try these demos out and see if you actually like the game before you buy it. I think that's actually pretty nice. And like I said, there are games like Dead is Disco and Metal Eden I probably would have never played. And even the Ninja Gaiden one, like I probably would have never played these games and been interested in them if not for this whole Steam Next Fest thing. So let me know, did you play any of these demos? Did you like any of these demos? Is there any demos I didn't play that you actually liked? You know, all that stuff. Comment down below. Tell me if I'm wrong about certain games in this video or I'm right or whatever. Like the video, dislike, do whatever you gotta do. Subscribe if you want. Do the YouTube stuff. You know the drill, the whole thing. But until next time, this is Penguin signing off. Thanks for watching.